Good afternoon. Welcome to Tuesdays with Terry. I'm talking to you live from Austin, Texas, where the sun is hot, the barbecue is sweet, and all the drinks are free over here. Today, I'd like to share with you some of what I call ahas. I don't know if you know what an aha is, but an aha is something that, the light bulb kind of goes off in your head, and you go, why didn't I think of that? Or I should have been thinking of that. Or I knew that, but I forgot about it, and I'm not using it in my daily life. So I want to share with you a couple of ahas that I had over the last 3 weeks. So what happened was I went out to visit my business, and I am reminded of a couple things that I thought maybe my listeners or maybe you might come across or might happen in your personal business as you grow your business. Have you ever looked at your business and thought to yourself, I hired this person to do a job, and yet I have to keep going back and reminding them to do their job? Have you ever been in a situation where you thought things were going a certain way, but when you pulled the covers back or you lifted up the hood of the car and you looked underneath the hood, you said, it's not happening maybe quite the way that I thought it was happening? And I'm reminded of these principles because I had actually gotten away from doing some of this, and I'm kicking myself because I go, I know better than this. And here I am talking to folks about how to build a business, and yet I'm finding myself making some of the same mistakes. So these are little tips that I need to remind you if you're building a business or you're growing a business or you're having situations where you're not getting the performance that you expect. Maybe these are a couple things that could help you out. Number one, you got to inspect what you expect. And I know you might have heard that 100 times over, but I can't tell you. It doesn't matter whether you're in lower level management, when you're in upper level management, whether you're owning a business, at whatever level, you've got to go and inspect what you expect. And when you do that, you are diagnosing the situation. You're like a doctor. You go into the doctor pokes here, he listens here, he touches here. You gotta diagnose the situation. And then after you diagnose, you've got to deliver, as a doctor does, you've got to deliver a prescription. Now, if you are an owner of a business or you're growing a business or you're a high-level executive, I want to remind you is inspecting what you expect is diagnose, then prescribe. So what does it mean to diagnose, right? That sounds great. Oh, let's go ahead and diagnose. But what am I really talking about? What I'm really talking about is, again, pulling back the covers and digging into the details. Again, cliche phrase, the devil is in the detail. At a very high level, you can't see the detail. So you've got to go in really close, spend some time, T-I-M-E, time with people. And you've got to, number one, you've got to listen. Number two, you got to look. And number three, you've got to ask questions, open-ended questions, so that people can tell you or explain what's happening or what's going on. You put your ear, I don't know if you've ever done this before. I used to live out in the country and not too far from railroad tracks. And I was told if you put your ear down to those railroad tracks, you could hear a train coming along if it was really coming along. But you got to do that. And that's what you do in business. You put your ear to the ground and you listen. And after you listen, you come back up. You give you're diagnosing, you make a prescription, and then you listen and you look and you ask more questions. And so if you're not getting the results that you're looking for, I would recommend a couple things. Number one, after you inspect, the first thing you want to do is you want to reset the expectations. So the quickest way to get on point with a group of people is probably you've had some turnover like we've had. Maybe you've had different managers, maybe you've had different regionals, maybe everybody is telling the story or setting the expectation a little bit differently. They need to hear from the source, and whatever that source is in your organization. If you're the owner, you're the source. If you have an operational document, that is the source. If that operational document is outdated and needs to be updated, then you need to correct the source. But you need to reset the expectations. And the resetting of the expectations is a couple pieces. It's what is it that is needed to be done and completed, and what are those outcomes that we're looking for. The second part of resetting expectations is once you say the what, then it's the how. How do I do that? How do we do that as an organization? How do we make that happen? How do we accomplish the what? And the only way to help with that is by putting it down on paper, the process. This is the first thing you do. This is the second thing you do. This is the third thing you do. And then what you do is you communicate and you train on that. And I can promise you the third part is the why. Don't forget the why we do what we do, because that helps people understand the reason that they're here. I'll give you an example. In our business, we've created a why. Our why is to improve the lives of the people that we come in contact with, and that is our team players, that is our members, and that is the communities that we serve. That's what we're doing here. So I ask people, what are we doing here? And what I'm looking for is, do they know that we're trying to improve people's lives? Are we trying to improve the life of a staff, employee, or team member? Are we trying to improve the life of a member? Are we trying to improve the lives of the communities we serve? That's the why. What is it we're trying to do? What the what's are, we are trying to build a membership base at our studios. The why is we're trying to create a member experience that is above and beyond what they would see in our competitors. The how is we try to use people's names. We try to greet people at the door when they walk in. I call it teeth and eyes. Let them see your eyes and put a big smile on your face so they can see your teeth, right? So that's what we're trying to do. What I'm suggesting is when you inspect and you listen, you look, you ask questions, first step to correct all of that is reset those expectations. What is it we're doing? How do I do it? And why in the world are we doing that? If you can answer those questions and describe those questions, you're going to be better at that. Then the next part is, I call it repeating the process, right? So you have created, this is the first thing you do, the second thing you do, the third thing you do, the fourth thing you do. You need to create a process or a cadence and a rhythm of inspecting, a cadence and a rhythm of training people, a cadence and a rhythm of auditing and looking at and diagnosing. But that has to be on a regular basis. You don't reset the expectations. Tell people what, how, and why, and then walk away and expect that you're going to get the results that you want to get. Ultimately, if you're an owner of a business, if you're a director, a manager, a VP, what is it that you want from a team of people? What you really want is you want those people to be able to self-manage. If you've put a process in place and you've created expectations and you've created a culture, what you're trying to do is get those people to self-manage. And what does that really mean, to self-manage? What it means is, you've all heard of this before, and none of us like it. None of us like micromanagers. A micromanager is a guy or a gal that gets in your short hairs and is asking you all the time, how's it going? What are you doing? What'd you do? How's the day look? You know, they're just all into your business. Well, sometimes people can't manage themselves, and so you have to follow up. The way you do that is you follow up on a daily basis, a weekly basis. If they can't manage their day, then you've got to figure out how to have them manage a shorter period or a half a day. And if they can't manage a half a day, then you've got to follow up and start looking and seeing how do they manage an hour. And part of that is the difference between directing and delegating. And that has everything to do, I know I'm throwing a lot of terms and pieces out there, but that has everything to do with competency and motivation. And I'll give you an example. When an employee first starts with you, they're probably really highly motivated. They're really excited. Man, this is exciting. I got a job. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to meet people. This is fantastic. But they're very low competency level, meaning I don't even know where I'm supposed to sit. I don't even know where my computer is. I don't even know how to answer the telephone. How do you want me to answer the telephone? And so when you have somebody that is highly motivated but very low competency level, you need to do a lot of directing. This is where you go. This is what you say. This is where you sit. This is the time that you do this. The first 15 minutes you do this. The next 45 minutes, this is what you should be doing. That's called directing. You're telling people exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do their job. And that's a lot of that is training, right? So you might call that OJT, on the job training. After somebody begins to get competencies, they know how to answer the telephone. Thank you for calling Orange Theory Fitness. This is Terry. May I help you? I know where I sit. I know how to log on to my computer. I know how to access information. I know how the software works. After they begin to get competency, then you can do more delegating. And you can say, I need you to open the business. I need you to generate X amount of revenue, or I need you to generate this many sales, or I need you to hire, 4 people, whatever it is. But once they have some competencies, now you can start delegating. You don't have to get into the details as much. However, remember how I started. Once you do that, you've got to go back on a regular basis and inspect what you're expecting. And I say this, everybody needs a coach, right? Professional athletes still need a coach. Professional athletes still need somebody to help them with their mindset, because many times people get in a rut, they get disappointed, they get discouraged, they get in a bad, they have a bad week, they have a bad month, their numbers are off. And I'm talking about professional sports. If that happens in professional sports, shouldn't that happen in our profession? Shouldn't we have a coach? Shouldn't we have somebody that always is coaching us to get better, to help us? They teach you, they coach you, they inspire you, and they hold you accountable. Accountability is critical in the process. So a couple things on that. If we want people to self-manage, here's a little technique you can use. It's called 3 before me. What's 3 before me? 3 before me simply says, this, people are always coming to you with their problems, right? Oh, okay, we got a problem. Oh, we got a problem. So the first thing you want to say is, when somebody says we've got a problem, you want to make sure you're 100% clear as we don't have a problem. This is not our problem. This is your problem. So you take that and you put that right back, the ownership of that problem back on them. And so what you want to teach your people to do is 3 before me. What that simply means is, I'm going to either ask other people in my network, my colleagues, or I'm going to try to find 3 solutions to this problem before I bring it to the owner, or before I bring it to the manager, or before I bring it to the director, or before I bring it to the VP. Get them to try to solve their own problems. They may not be the best solutions, but at least it's starting to train their mind to work that I am empowered. I can solve my own problems. I can do this. I can take action on this. And once they get approvals, if they need that, pretty soon they build their confidence level up. And after a period of time, they're starting to solve their own problems, make their own decisions, and you're off to the races. You don't have to micromanage people anymore. There's a book out there by Ken Blanchard. It's called The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. And the whole book is talking about this concept about where people bring you their problems and how to make sure that people are writing things down when you meet with them, to make sure that they understand it's their problem, and to also make sure that when you leave, that problem still resides with them. The next action that has to happen is on the subordinate, meaning that you don't have to have the next action. Many of us try to solve people's problems or help them out, and we think that that's the answer. Boy, we'll just answer all their questions, we'll solve their problems. And what ends up happening is you get a lot of to-do items on your list, and you're a busy person, you're a busy man, a busy woman, and you can't follow up on everything. Therefore, it falls through the cracks. The way to handle that is to make sure that when you walk away from those conversations, the responsibility of the next action is on them, the person that brought you that problem. I also want to remind you, there's another book out there called Who Will Do What by When. I can't remember the author's name, but it's a great book about creating alignment with your team and helping them to understand about who will do what by when, getting target dates down. And one of the things that happens, I see this a lot with young managers, they simply don't write things down, right? Maybe in my podcast, you're listening to my podcast, you're not writing some of this stuff down. You might be driving, you might be on a plane, train, or automobile. It's okay, I get it. But all I'm suggesting is, if you get done with this podcast, or you're listening to a podcast, or you go to training, you've got to write stuff down. There is no way. You only retain about 20% of what people say. And so when I see people come to my training and they didn't bring any notepads, or they didn't bring any book, or they're not taking notes, I go, these guys really aren't here to learn. They're here because somebody told them they needed to be here. Write it down, make actionable items, make sure your subordinates, your employees, your staff, your team, that they're creating actionable items to follow up with after they leave. So again, what am I really talking about? I'm talking about something where you're not getting the desired result or the desired performance. What do? Number one is you've got to inspect what you expect. You got to listen, look, ask a lot of questions, get a lot of information, get your ear to the ground, get in the details, reset the expectations, create a process, train, then go back and inspect. And remember this is really important. You're not looking for perfection. You're looking for progress. What matters is we are on the right path. Get your team on the right path. Do the right thing. Inspect what you expect. Everybody needs a coach. 3 before me. Get them to self-manage. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was a few ideas and tips you can take home to help you manage your business just a little bit better. My name's Terry. As always, I'm your friend. Have a wonderful day.